Welcome to channel AMEC, your insight to the Australian visa system. Good day everyone, my name is Carl Young, your online YouTube visa consultant. Are you interested about migrate to Australia? Why don't you consider to subscribe to my channel and turn on a little bell on side so once we have all the updates and news, you'll be the first one of getting all the insights. Now, so does all the GTI applicant required to demonstrate that they have the income that's above, equivalent or above the Fair Work high income threshold? That's a topic we're going to talk about today. Now, a lot of people had obviously contact me, and I've seen a lot of comments in the internet, in the comment or community sections, in regards to a lot of these talented people. They may have the skills. It's a struggle where how they could actually be measured as an international recognized achievable skill set in order to meet the GTI Global Talent Independent Visas criteria. Now obviously it's a myth because it doesn't spells out too much in detail, but then the law of the Australian immigration regulations requires evidence of demonstration, and you basically need to argue yourself out in order to allow the case officer to actually believe you. Now obviously there are some evidence of applicants are pretty very strong evidence and straightforward. For example, people have been into quantum computing, space tech, but you know, a lot of other skill set. For example, a lot of people have long lived with very expert skills in IT, or perhaps in the finance sector, or perhaps has been dealing long-term experiences in infrastructure, tourism. Now, how do these people actually demonstrate their skill set actually meet the requirement and the criteria of GTI? This is a topic that we're going to talk about today. So let's jump into the actual Home Affairs Immigration's web page, which you may be able to Google this by typing in Home Affairs one word and space GTI. You should be able to link yourself into this eligibility page. Now we have been talked about so much about the target sector and the talent. Now we would like to focus on what the high income threshold and what actual law applies in here. So as we scroll down, obviously way to actually prove your talent is by your senior roles patterns that maybe you have already registered under your name, professional awards that can be international or with sometimes like bankings, they do provide a lot of awards. It's not really international, but it's within the banking institution, the financial institution itself has a lot of these competition within the corporation. So these can also be counted. International publications, that's more like the PhD publication or thesis, or perhaps membership in some sort of very high senior experience or technical association, things like that. So here we go. Now let's talk about this, the high income threshold. Let's read it and have a think about it, and I'm gonna take you into the actual regulation and see what it actually meant. Then at the end of this video, I'll summarize and also translate what they really actually meant, because sometimes although it's in plain English, but it's still very vague. If you're not in, you know, like me, you know, we've been dealing with immigration law for such a long time, we'll know what it actually meant. So the wording here says candidates should have the ability to attract a salary at or above the Fair Work high income threshold of Australian dollars 158 and 500. This figure is adjusted annually on the 1st of July. So obviously last year was, I think it was 153,600, I believe. So it's about $5,000 increase from 2020 to 2021. When assessing this, we will consider, so immigration will consider your current salary, so that's pretty obvious. Okay, and the second one is your future offer outlining remunerations. So it's an offer. It will be more preferable from an Australian employer, but there is no strict requirement here. Or perhaps your recent PhD graduate in a target sector. So that basically means if you're a recent PhD graduate, you will actually meet that requirement. Okay, so as you see here, it's kind of very vague because it's only a couple of sentences here, and the key words here is you have ability to attract. Now, that doesn't really mean that your current salary will be at this level, but if you can show evidence that you can attract that kind of level of salary, then you meet this requirement, right? Okay, now let's jump into the actual regulations and check out what the actual regulation of the subclass 85A actually looks like. So the subclass 85A, as you can see here. Now, if we read down here for the first one, it says, unless applicant is being endorsed by the Prime Minister's Special Envoy of Global Business and Talent Attraction. So obviously, most of people will not be there unless your nominator is the Prime Minister himself or some his senior minister within the Australian government. So generally, I would say 99% of the people would land yourself in number 2 here. Now, interestingly, there's no 3. Now, because they have amended the regulations, so it was previously was I think it was called talent, special talent visa, but they changed it global talent, so they make the way to this one. So now number 2 is the bulk detail that we're required to go through. So has an international recognized record of exceptional outstanding achievement, which I have basically been explained for a lot of videos previously. Now that covers areas in professionalism, sports, arts, academic researchers, and still prominent in the areas, and will be an asset of Australian community and have no difficulty of getting employed. And then you need a nominator to actually help and get that Form 1000 done. So if you're not sure what Form 1000 is all about, I've done a specific video on this one as well. Now, if the applicant is not 18 or at least at the age of 55, that means 55 years or older, okay? The applicant will require to show exceptional benefit to Australian community. So this type of person will have to show that they are extremely experienced in the field of whatever the sector that is in, and you need to show the specialty, or it's generally more into hardware designing and technological designing things, because if you're talking about softwares and like IT, networking, software type of skills, it's going to be very hard to show exceptional benefit, because some of the patterns and skills, if you're an engineer, it's actually very easy to show the exceptional benefit. For example, like space technology, for example, in defense technology, because generally these people will be, it's only one of the few in the world, and obviously they will be beneficial for the community of Australia. Okay, now number 4 says applicant meets the requirement of this subclass. Acting advice minister has intelligence security agency. Basically meant that they will do character checks, make sure that you are you're clear of some sort of intelligence issues, perhaps, for example, spy. So that's this. Now, you may notice in the actual regulations there is no mention of salary at all. Now let me continue to scroll down. No, there is no mention of fair word high income at all here. Now, where I can find it is from Direction 89, which is a legislative instrument. Basically, it's another piece of law, and that's especially to be pinned on the subclass 85A and 124. Now, obviously, 124 has been abolished. It's all into 858 now. It's a name of order of considerations. Okay, and it was done on the 17th of December 2020. So just before the year 2021, and the Alan Tudor was the acting Minister of Immigration, Citizenship, Migration Service, and Multicultural Affairs. Now his name's quite long. It's actually that long. Okay, given the direction under Section 499 of the Migration Act 195A. So that's in that age. Now, okay, so the minister actually says here. Now he has two roles because he's actually a minister of population, city, and urban infrastructure. Okay, anyway, it's actually come from immigration. Anyhow, okay, now this is actually the direction given. Now it does spells out the information that we are looking for. So it says here, they have to be in those sectors. Okay, and that reflects to the GTI webpage that we are commonly being referred to. You see all the sectors here. Now make sure you check all these out because they have updated the information. It's quite useful. It has more detail of all the specialization that you can actually check it out, but that's not the full specialization. It's more still towards more proof of evidence from the owners of proof is going in from the applicant's end. Okay, now here is the actual wording talking about the income. So let me read that out and explain it more. So applicant made an immigration sector set out in subsection 2. That's the sector down here. Okay, or in related to this sector, and where there's a written communication from an Australian employer offering employment in Australia with an annual salary equivalent or higher to the fair word high income threshold. So how much is that? That's $158,500. Okay, so that basically says you might want to get a job offer with that kind of amount or above from an Australian employer, then that's fine. Okay, and the key here is it says or, means either of these three is fine. Now the second one, it says the primary applicant current earning is an amount equal or greater than the amount referred to the subparagraph, which is this one. So that basically refer to the first sentence here, current salary show through payslip or a contract. Okay, now the third one says where there is evidence of primary applicant is likely to attract, okay, salary that is equal or greater to the amount referred to that one there. So that basically will match to what? To here, ability to attract salary. Now interestingly, the order of direction number 89 does not give out detail of how this will actually be meeting the criteria. Well, that would basically mean if you're a recent PhD, it's actually acceptable as an evidence that you're likely to attract that kind of salary. Now, what I'm trying to say here is basically the law for subclass 85A obviously is quite direct, but it's still got that vague and grayish area. First of all, it says likely to attract. Okay, so it's not the right answer. Likely or unlikely, so how much or percentage? So it's not a definite requirement. The answer here is it's not a definite requirement to show that your salary level is already at a level of the high income threshold or above. So if you have a PhD, then that's fine. That will meet the definition of likely to attract. That's what they're trying to say. Now obviously they another thing that they mentioned there was likely offer. employer from Australia. However, in the wording of the actual the GTI eligibility webpage, it doesn't mention Australian employer here. So it says future job offer outline remuneration. It doesn't say from an Australian employer. So there is still an area where I think which allows a lot of applicants to actually utilize in ways. So how this can be done is from your current income, you may want to get an extra offer. No one says that you cannot have two jobs. So the two income all come together might have a total of equivalent or above the high income threshold. So again, to summarize this, for the high income threshold, it's a way to prove your experience and qualification and skillful enough to actually meet that international recognized achievable status. That's one way to approve it, and also the way to actually demonstrate with the evidence of proof obviously is your current income, if that already meet the requirement, or perhaps a future offer, or perhaps PhD and or other requirement. The other proof that I can think of and being commonly utilized is that finding out the similar jobs that it's already been listed on pay scale in Australia, or perhaps a lot of job seeking site for a similar type of titles that is related to what you currently do. But again, some of GTI applicants occupation or specific role may be very limited to be found. However, there's other way that you can actually identify them. You can actually find countries that's similar to Australia and demonstrate that your ability can actually meet that kind of requirement. For example, going to the job seeking site in USA, job seeking site in UK, in Europe, perhaps New Zealand maybe, and that can all be demonstrated a way that meet that requirement of likely to attract. So that's the keyword, because that keyword is not a definite, and you don't need to show a definite answer on that one, but you need to show that you have that likeliness to actually attract high income threshold. Anyways, should you have more question or query, more than welcome to leave a comment right down below, and I see you next video. Goodbye.